A Halo remake without its famous PvP, a former gacha game without gacha, and those aren't even the biggest surprises in July's multiplayer lineup. If you're still very sad about the late end of Destiny 2, why not grab your friends and experience the remake of one of the most iconic FPS together? Halo Campaign Evolved features the original campaign, rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5 with updated visuals, reworked mechanics, and a few surprises for longtime fans. Alongside the classic story, there are also 3 brand new prequel missions featuring Master Chief and Sergeant Johnson, new enemies to fight, and so-called skulls, which are optional game modifiers that add more replayability. And speaking of replayability, there is even a campaign remix mode that adds randomized elements. But for us, the most interesting part is definitely, you guessed it, the co-op. Unlike the original Halo, this remake puts much bigger focus on playing together. The entire campaign supports up to 4 players online with full crossplay between Xbox, PC and PlayStation 5. So no matter what your friends are playing on, you can all jump into the same Warthog, which is the super cool armored vehicle by the way. And if you want to play this in couch co-op, we've got great news too! Console players can play the entire campaign in 2-player split screen. Interestingly, there is no competitive multiplayer included at launch. This has been a bit controversial among fans who loved the old PvP mode, but they can at least still play the original one or Halo Infinite. Will PvP be added later on in Campaign Evolved? Maybe, we're not sure either. Still, for anyone who never played the original or just wants an excuse to revisit this gem with friends, this looks like a solid way to experience one of Halo's most memorable adventures all over again. In July, the 4-player co-op action RPG Granblue Fantasy Relink is getting its first expansion DLC called Endless Ragnarok. This is officially called an upgrade pack as it continues the story of the base game, but let's be honest, most players are probably here for the endgame, which means challenging new bosses and new co-op quest tiers as well as brand new gameplay elements. We are getting 6 new playable characters that join the roster, but the biggest addition comes in form of summons. Similar to the Final Fantasy series, players can now call powerful creatures into battle to deal devastating attacks or grant support effects. The interesting part is that the summon gauge is shared across the entire party, turning it into a team resource that groups need to coordinate rather than spam according to their own agenda. Then there are primal bursts, a kind of cooperative super attack that rewards teams for properly syncing their abilities. But the biggest quality of life improvement is full crossplay support. PC, PlayStation and Switch 2 players can finally join the same matchmaking pool, making it much easier to find groups to play through the new content together. You do need the base game to play, of course. So if you're new, you might want to play the demo first, which is available on all platforms. For anyone who enjoyed Granblue Fantasy's boss rush focused gameplay before, Endless Ragnarok just brings you more of the good stuff. More characters, more endgame, bigger fights, and plenty of reasons to start grinding again. Here's a quick disclaimer, because we know just how much y'all love extraction shooters. And yes, you're not alone with a bit of fatigue on this genre. But still, some devs actually bring some new ideas into the usual loot, fight, return loop. This looks like Elden Ring, but plays like medieval arc raiders. Mistfall Hunter is a stylish PvPvE action RPG, and probably the best looking one out there. At least to anyone who's into Nordic mythology. Players venture into ruins in search of valuable relics and a mysterious resource called Gildan Blood. Sounds simple enough until you realize that this really is an extraction game, and that you're not the only treasure hunter in there. So that means you not only run into monsters, but other players who would be more than happy to take your loot. Or you play nice and cooperate, who knows. We just hope they have a don't shoot emote of their own. You can hop into these expeditions alone, but why not grab 2 more friends and play as a team? The game features 6 different classes, each with their own abilities, talents and weapon styles, allowing for some interesting and varied team setups. The combat looks kinda like they dipped an action RPG toe into some Souls-like. It looks fast, yet pretty impactful, with a mix of melee weapons, spells, dodges, and weapon swapping. What makes Mistfall Hunter stand out a bit for us is that it looks less like a traditional extraction shooter and more like a spiced up Souls-like. But if you carry a deep grudge against full loot PvP, I guess this one is still a pass for you. What if the monsters weren't your biggest problem? What if it was your friends? Or monsters pretending to be your friends? Friends turning into monsters? Honestly, after a while, it becomes difficult to tell the difference. And that's exactly the premise of the Mound, Omen of Cthulhu. This Lovecraft-inspired co-op horror game sends groups of up to 4 explorers deep into a cursed jungle in search of treasure and valuable loot. Every expedition starts from your ship, where you prepare your gear before heading inland to collect treasure. But the further you push into the wilderness, the more dangerous the environment becomes. And we are not just talking about giant monsters. The game's biggest feature is a sanity system that constantly messes with your perception of reality. If you ever played Green Hell and snacked on some natives, you kinda know what to expect. One player might see enemies that nobody else can see, while others hear things that aren't there. Or are they? And sometimes you'll start wondering whether your teammates are actually helping you at all. Welcome to co-op gaming. Although, to be fair, that part probably has nothing to do with the sanity system. This naturally makes communication pretty important. The game even uses proximity voice chat, so staying together is often the safest option. Until some random monster decides to wear Greg's face again. This gets especially spicy when fallen teammates return and start hunting the rest of the group. You can explore the jungle with up to 3 friends in online co-op, or head in with AI companions if you prefer to scream in private. So if you have ever wanted a co-op game that actively encourages you to question both reality and your friends, the Mound launches on July 15th for PC and consoles with full crossplay support. We agree that DragonSword Awakening might just look like another gacha RPG at first glance. And we're not too far off, because this was actually developed with all the features of your next best free-to-play gacha game. But the devs decided otherwise, left their publisher, and got rid of all those elements before launch. Now, this is a traditional buy-to-play open-world action RPG where every single one of the 19 characters can be earned just by playing the game. No limited banners, no energy systems, and no FOMO. Just a one-time purchase of around $30. The main story runs about 10 to 15 hours, with more side quests including hero stories and open-world exploration. We travel across the fantasy continent of Orbis with a party of recruitable heroes that you can switch between on the fly. During combat, you can build cool combos and synergies just the way you like. It's important to mention that on release, the main story and most activities are single-player only. At first, there will only be 2 optional co-op activities called Hunt and Raid. But the devs are open to implementing full co-op support for the story and open world content, depending on how well the game is received. And selling, of course. But that also means that it's not fixed on the roadmap whatsoever. And they also plan to release the game on consoles after the Steam release. Those were our 5 highlights, but there are even more releases coming up. Sometimes, all you need to have a good time with your friend is the end of the world, plus a ton of puzzles. Lost in Tandem is a hand-drawn adventure fully built around couch co-op with the option of Steam Remote Play together. And if you're watching our news, you will definitely remember this beautiful adventure puzzler game. You and a friend control 2 very different characters in split and shared screen. A young girl and a clunky but very strong robot called Mechute. The robot can move heavy objects and power mechanisms, while the girl reaches places her companion can't. The whole thing takes place in a colorful, post-apocalyptic world in which nature has reclaimed the ruins of civilization. Doesn't this give the game an oddly cozy and relaxed atmosphere? We don't know about you, but we already fell in love with the beauty and creativity of this game. If you know us, you know that we adored the old original Ragnarok Online. Spending hours grinding monsters with a group, hoping for that 0.01% rare drop was just the best ever back then. None of the late row games were any good to us, but we were happy to learn that SpiritVale seems to be chasing that exact feeling, while also adding some modern twists too. This is a indie MMORPG focused heavily on party play, boss hunting and grinding loot. Players can team up to explore dungeons, farm enemies for rare loot, and take on powerful bosses that are much easier to handle with a party. The game features a variety of classes ranging from warriors to mages to summoners and support-focused characters, encouraging different group setups and cooperative playstyles. The only thing we hope will get a little more love during the early access phase are the graphics. Although definitely charming, it's still a bit too cartoony for our taste. But looks are subjective, and we also have to add that the content right on release and the roadmap really are impressive. If you're still on the fence, there's a demo available on Steam right now. With the current heatwave around the globe, we definitely had to talk about the perfect summer game. Aquapark Tycoon. This park simulation launches into early access on July 22nd. And you guessed it, your job is creating the most awesome water park ever and bringing fun, joy and relaxation to your guests. You design your own park from the ground up, complete with pools and slides of course, but also wellness areas and saunas. And judging by the building tools, you can get really creative with it. Some slides in the trailers look like they abandoned all laws of physics, which makes it even more awesome. But our highlight here is that the game supports online co-op for up to 4 players, allowing friends to build and manage the park together, which is really rare for management sims. And to answer your most pressing question, yes, you can even write your own slides in first-person mode. You can try it out for yourself with a free demo on Steam. If you want to find out what happens to the Duracell bunnies if they run out of battery in a creepy mechanical carnival, here's your chance. Well, except that these are wind-up bunnies. But Carnival Hunt is an asymmetric horror game, which means that one player controls the monster and plays against a group of toy rabbits trying to escape. The interesting twist is that all actions drain your energy, which is why you constantly need your teammates to make sure you're powered up while you're searching for a way out. Leave your friends behind and they might run out of energy, unable to defend themselves against the monster. This is an indie game developed by a smaller team, so they will first launch into early access and then go from there based on community feedback. The game comes with proximity voice chat, matchmaking, and procedurally generated maps. This really looks like it could add some real psychological pressure thanks to that teamwork twist. So if you love some more spooky games, this one should go right on your wishlist. What sounds like a party game is actually everything but that. Because once the funnels start appearing in Funnel Runners, you would better already be on your way out. Launching on July 16th, this co-op survival game puts up to 8 players into a city that's about to be torn apart by a massive storm. So far, so bad. Naturally, the plan is to get out before the tornado arrives. Unfortunately, your vehicle has decided this would be a great time to need repairs. So your goal is simple: find vehicle parts, fuel and supplies, repair the van and get the hell out of there. The catch is that the tornado isn't just sitting in the background looking dramatic. Buildings collapse, debris flies through the air, and entire sections of the map can become inaccessible as the storm grows stronger. This means your team constantly has to decide whether to split up and cover more ground or stick together and play it safe. Or safer. Because there's only so much Greg can do once a gust of wind sends you into the next postal code. With short runs, proximity chat and plenty of opportunities for things to go horribly wrong, Funnel Runners could be a fun pick for groups looking for a digital cooldown in this hot weather. What if Mario had a bit more encouragement on his journey? Like a wall of fire that's constantly closing in behind him, for example? Motivation. SpeedRunners 2, the sequel to the beloved platform racing game, arrives this July and does just that. But instead of a tiny plumber, you pick one of several heroes and race against the clock. Sounds easy enough until missiles, traps, and grappling hooks are added to the equation. Matches now support up to 8 players in fast-paced competitions where you jump, slide, and swing your way through obstacle-filled courses, trying to survive the mayhem around you. And if double the player count isn't chaotic enough for you, there is even a tournament mode with up to 64 players. Finding yourself in that chaos is probably sheer luck at this point. Thankfully, crossplay and couch co-op are also included, so finding all those runners won't be difficult. This one looks like another great party game for anyone who enjoys a little friendly competition. But that's all for July. We wish you a ton of fun in co-op with your favorite summer people, and we'll see you again in the next one.